Hello crystals, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we are going to learn about pyramidal system, means our descending tracks which are corticospinal and corticobulbar pathways. So without wasting so much time, let's get started. So the contents for today's lecture are basics of brain and spinal cord, then introduction of tracks, then introduction about pyramidal tract, then we will talk about corticospinal and the corticobulbar tract, and then function of descending tracts, and lastly a clinical relevance related to this tract. First of all, let's learn some basics of the brain. So, the brain is the most important part of our body. It controls all activities of our body. So, the question is how can brain control these activities at one time, like watch, hear, touch, smell, thought, muscle contraction, and many more functions? So the answer of this question is there are different areas and the lobes are present in our brain to control these different functions. Mainly there are four lobes are present which are frontal lobe, parietal lobe, occipital lobe and the temporal lobe. These different lobes are associated with the different activities like frontal lobe associated with the motor activities, parietal lobe associated with the sensory activities, occipital lobe associated with the visual, and the temporal lobe associated with the hearing and the speech controls. Now you can see in this picture there are cerebrum and the cerebellum is present, and the different part of the brain like midbrain, pons and the medulla, which is also known as the brainstem, which controls the different functions in our body. Now you can see in this picture there is a sulcus and gyri present. So what is sulcus and what is gyrus? So the sulcus is the line and the gyrus is a fold which made up between two sulcus. As you can see in this picture, this is a red line which is the central sulcus, and this is the yellow part which is the gyrus. As we will talk about the corticospinal and the corticobulbar tract, we will only focus on sulcus and gyri of the frontal lobe, which associated with the motor control. So there is a main central sulcus is present, which divides frontal lobe from the parietal lobe, and the gyrus which present front or anterior to the central sulcus is the precentral gyrus. There is also precentral sulcus and superior inferior frontal sulcus are present. So the superior, middle and the inferior frontal gyrus is formed. I hope it made sense. Okay, this is the best picture in which you can see the functional areas in the cerebral cortex. You can see the Broca's area number 44, which is associated with the speech, and the Wernicke's area number 22, which is associated with the comprehension of the speech, and also the visual and the auditory cortex. Again, I repeat you, frontal lobe associated mainly with the motor control, parietal with the sensory, occipital for visual and the temporal lobe for the hearing function. Now the second topic is what is homunculus. Like as we can see ourselves in mirror or the people around us, but our brain not sees that way. Okay, I clear it so you can see the picture. The homunculus means it is a physical representation of the body within the brain. Means in our brain the specific areas which control the specific parts of our body. For example, when we see out the brain, cut out the brain from the middle, we can see this type of structure. So the superior area control our upper and the lower limb, and as we go inferiorly it controls our areas of the face like lips, jaw, tongue, pharynx, etc. In short, this is the way the brain sees ourselves. I hope it made sense. Now let's talk about grey matter and white matter. We all know that there is a grey matter and the white matter is present in the brain and the spinal cord. So actually what is grey and what is white matter? We all know neuron structure, in which it have a axon, dendrites and the soma, which is the cell body. Axon makes synapse with the next dendrite or the cell body to transmit impulses. So the gray matter is actually made up of these cell bodies, and the white matter is made up of their axons of their respective neurons. In the brain, the gray matter is present outside and the white matter is present inside. And in the spinal cord, white matter is present outside and the gray matter present inside. In this picture, you can also see the anterior gray horn, posterior gray horn, anterior white funiculus, posterior white funiculus. In short, the gray matter is made up of the cell bodies and the white matter is made up of the axons and their bundles. I hope now it is clear it to you. Now let's talk about tracks. So what is track? So the tracks are the collection of these axons which takes the information up and down. Means the axons from the brain are make synapse with the cell body in the spinal cord and carries the information. These information pathways are known as the tracks. I hope you understand. Now mainly two type of tracks are present, ascending and the descending tracks. So the ascending means it takes the information from the spinal cord to the brain. So this information is mainly sensory, because when we touch or feel something, that sensation is traveling through the spinal cord to the brain, and brain analyzes that information and tell us what to do next. So this information regarding what to do is carried by our descending tracks. So we can say it carries the motor information. So in short, the ascending tracks carry the sensory information and the descending tracks carry the motor information. So let's learn the detail about descending tracks. So the descending tracks are the pathways by which motor signals are sent from brain to the lower motor neurons. So there are pyramidal and the extrapyramidal tracks included in the descending tracks. So what is the difference between them? So the pyramidal tracks control the voluntary movement and the extrapyramidal tracks associated with the involuntary movement control. In pyramidal tracks, there is a corticospinal and the corticobulbar tracks are present, and in the extrapyramidal tracks there is a vestibulospinal, reticulospinal, rubrospinal and the tectospinal tracks are present. Now let's learn the detail about pyramidal tracks. So what are pyramidal tracks? So these tracks are originate in the cerebral cortex and carrying the motor fibers to the spinal cord and to the brainstem. They are responsible for the voluntary control of the musculature of the body and the face, as I said you before. Now let's talk about Baird cells. So these are the special type of cells which are present in the fifth layer of the motor cortex, and these are the largest neuron cells present in the brain. So the axons of the Baird cells are the corticospinal and the corticobulbar tracts. Now what is corticospinal tract? Corticospinal means it takes the information from the cortex to the spinal cord. So it is called the corticospinal tract. So it has approximately 1 million nerve fibers average and the average conduction velocity is 60 meter per second. The corticospinal tract begins in the cerebral cortex, from which they receives a range of inputs from the primary motor cortex, premotor cortex and the supplementary motor area. They also receives the nerve fibers from the somatosensory area, which play a role in regulating the activity of the ascending tracts. So now let's learn the pathway of the descending corticospinal tracts. So it descends from through the corona radiata to the posterior half of the lateral ventricle, and from which it descend into the posterior limb of the internal capsule. Then it is go to the midbrain through the cerebral peduncle and through the crus cerebri of the midbrain, pons and the medulla. Again, the descending pathways entered through the corona radiata. Corona radiata means there are many axonal fibers are arranged in the radiation. So they are come together and enter into the posterior half of the lateral ventricle, then go into the internal capsule, and through the cerebral peduncle it enters into the midbrain, pons and medulla, and synapse with the anterior horn cell or the posterior horn cells of the spinal cord. Mainly these are the motor pathways, so they are synapse with the anterior horn cells of the spinal cord. You can see in this picture there is a corticospinal tract. This is the lateral corticospinal pathway, and this is the anterior corticospinal pathway. The lateral corticospinal pathway is enters from the cortex to the midbrain, pons and the medulla. There is a pyramidal decussation is occur, so that's why these tracts are called the pyramidal tracts. Then it enters to the contralateral side of the spinal cord and synapse with the anterior horn cells, means the cell body of the spinal cord. And the anterior corticospinal tracts, the pathway of anterior corticospinal tract is ipsilateral. Now let's learn about lateral corticospinal tract in detail. So there are contralateral fibers, as I said you, and they make up between 75 to 90% fibers. They descend in the posterior part of the lateral funiculus, means in the ventral horn, and this tract is detected through the lumbosacral spine, and fibers synapse either directly on the anterior horn cell or the contralateral side to their origin, or on the interneuron of the layer within this same side. From the ventral horn, the lower motor neuron go on to the supply the muscles of the body. This is the stretch reflex, means the descending tracts are synapse with the gray horn in the anterior gray horn, and the anterior gray horn is the information is passed to the gamma motor neuron and the alpha motor neuron. The gamma motor neuron control the gamma motor neuron and the alpha motor neuron controls the muscular activity. Now the anterior corticospinal tract. So it makes up between 10 to 25% of the fibers. They remain ipsilateral, descending into the spinal cord. They then decussate and terminate in the ventral horn of the cervical and upper thoracic segment. The lateral corticospinal tract is go to the lumbosacral spine, and the anterior corticospinal tract is to the cervical and the upper thoracic region only. And the anterior corticospinal tract remain ipsilateral, and the lateral corticospinal tract is remain contralateral. Now let's learn about corticobulbar tract. So the corticobulbar tract arises from the lateral aspect of the primary motor cortex. They receive the same inputs as the corticospinal tract from the primary motor cortex and the premotor cortex. The fibers converge and pass through the internal capsule to the brainstem, and the neurons terminate on the motor nuclei of the cranial nerves. So the corticobulbar pathways, the main function of this pathway is to supply to the muscles of the head and neck. Here the synapse with the lower motor neuron, which carry the motor signals to the muscles of the face and neck. Clinically, it is important to understand the organization of the corticobulbar pathways, because many of these fibers innervate the motor neurons bilaterally. For example, fibers from the left primary motor cortex act as an upper motor neuron for the right and the left trochlear nerve. Because as we all know that if there is a lesion in the right brain, the symptoms can be seen in the left part of our body, but the some nerve fibers innervate bilaterally. So in the left trochlear nerve, the left primary motor cortex, it acts as a upper motor neuron for the right and the left trochlear nerve. I hope you understand. Now let's talk about functions of this tract. So the corticospinal tract has a many functions which include the control of afferent inputs, spinal reflexes and the motor neuron activity. The most important being the mediation to the voluntary distal movements. The lateral corticospinal tract, when the nerves innervate to the muscle, they have maintained contact with the specific type of fibers, each of which are stimulated by varying fibers. The type of fibers necessary for the movements are extrafusal fibers and the intrafusal fibers. So the extrafusal fibers are controlled and innervated by the alpha motor neurons, and the intrafusal fibers are controlled by the gamma motor neurons. So the extrafusal fibers means there is a contraction or the relaxation of the muscle, means it related to the lengthening and shortening of the muscle, and the intrafusal fibers are maintaining the tone of the muscle, and also they control the scale movements of the hands and feet. And in the anterior corticospinal tract, it controls the movements of the axial muscles like neck and the trunk. And the function of the corticobulbar pathway is to control the muscles of the head and neck. Now, clinical relevance related to the this tract. So, a lesion in the corticospinal tract can occur anywhere along its path from the cortex to the anterior horn of the spinal cord. A lesion of the corticospinal tract typically results in a upper motor neuron sign, and a lesion of the corticospinal tract cranial to the decussation of the pyramids will result in a deficits on a contralateral side, and the caudal deficits result in a lesion to the ipsilateral side. Because above the decussation, fibers change their pathways. For example, fibers from the left cortex are decussate and convert to the right side and make the synapse with the right side of anterior gray horn. So this is the reason when the lesion occur cranial to the decussation, it will result in a deficits on the contralateral side, and the caudal deficits result in a lesion at the ipsilateral side. You can see this chart, upper motor and the lower motor neuron. The upper motor neuron lesion means the lesions occur in the cortex, means above the anterior gray horn, and the lower motor neuron lesions mean lesions occur below the anterior gray horn. So in the upper motor neuron there is a spasticity occurs, and in the lower motor neuron there is a flaccidity. So the weakness occur in the both upper motor and the lower motor neuron lesions. The atrophy does not occur in the upper motor neuron, but in the lower motor neuron it occurs. We can see the fasciculations in the lower motor neuron. The reflexes in the upper motor neuron is increased, and in the lower motor neuron it is decreased or diminished. And the tone is also increased in the upper motor neuron, and in the lower motor neuron the tone is decreased. I hope you understand. So if you like my content, then please like, share and subscribe my channel and press the bell icon for the latest update. Thank you. Stay safe, stay healthy, and please keep supporting.